Okay, recording is started. Yay. Crom, thank you so much for the lurk. Pre-heresy world eater. Yeah, it's very cool looking. I don't know. The client had it commissioned or converted by somebody else, and then they had it shipped to me to paint. Thank you, Scurvy. I appreciate that. Web Dork, what's going on? How you doing? I was just run with letting the shadows fall naturally, so I never thought about. Yeah, and that's the thing though, is like the shadows. Our miniatures are so small because here's the thing. Think about too, is we're not just painting scale miniatures. We're painting in scale. So our light and shadows have to be painted into scale and get shrunk down also. So that's why a lot of time the shadows and highlights are so dynamic, because when you let the shadows fall naturally, what happens is you're getting 1-to-1 scale shadows on something that you're painting that's like 1/32 scale or 1/28 scale or whatever it is, or whatever you want to call it, depending on the size of the piece. So the smaller it is, the more dynamic you need to make the shadows to make them read properly, be more dynamic. And then when it's sitting on a table, you can look at it and see it and know exactly what you're looking at. Now, the bigger the piece, the more dynamic it is. And like literally the bigger, like 13 inches, 15 inches, 18, however big it is, the bigger it is, the more light and shadows will happen naturally. And you don't need to worry about that as much. Because at the end of the day, we are actually doing like art and making art itself. No Tachi. All right, so it is 9 a.m. We are going to start the paint along here. That is the answer to one question. Oh, very cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a base coat on her dress there. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dark blue on her dress because I want to have a blue dress, like a nice cool color, and have it complement the warm fire we're going to do here. So let's find a nice dark blue. Actually, let's just start with this. We're going to go transparent blue from Pro Acryl because I do like this. It is a nice dark color. No. Okay, I'm going to try doing this and have my palette in here as much as I can. Mediac, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome. Okay, so we're going to start with the Pro Acryl Transparent Blue. I just need a drop. A little bit goes a long way. This paint's nice because it automatically has transparency to it, so I just add a little bit of water and thins it out. And typically I just get a little bit of water. And the pigmentation is really great on this stuff. So because I already have a nice zenithal, what I did was I primered zenithal from up top, where I did black, gray. I shot the whole thing black, shot it gray from up top, kind of hit it kind of heavy, and then I focused a white primer on the fire, and then right on the very top of her where that light's going to be reflecting here. So what we're going to do is just glaze on this blue. And the reason why I thinned that down, even though it's already transparent, is I want it to go on very, very thin because I want it to be a nice transparent glaze, and it's going to let the light and dark show through. And kind of way to think about this is it's going to be more of a introduction to object source lighting, not a complete course on object source lighting. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We do have a Discord. There's a paint along Discord thread. So as you're going, if you want to show off what your progress on it, when I ask questions about your progress and what you're doing, feel free to post up pictures there and just let me know and I'll take a look at them. Sure I have in there. You can see this is a quick example of why the transparent paints can work really, really nice. No, wait, that was zooming in. Sorry. There we go. And you see why I like transparent paints with a good zenithal primer job, because even if I wasn't doing object source lighting, this can give you a very nice, you know, highlight and shadow very, very quickly. All right, so let's pause this real. Okay. What? Okay, we're back to recording here. Okay, so we're back to recording here. You can see this is I use transparent blue from Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl. Give me a really nice dress color there of light to dark, and you can even kind of start to see that object source lighting, how things are going to be brighter on top than they are on the undersides here. And one thing that's going to be nice too is because cool colors typically have warm shadows, I'm going to be able to work some warm colors into the shadows of the dress, especially down underneath, and it's going to help drive that effect of what's going on with the light and stuff like that. So I'm going to do is I'm going to hit up her flesh real quick. I'm going to start with where is it? I'm actually going to start with Shadow Flesh here from Pro Acryl. I'm going to just thin this down a little bit on my wet palette, which I need a bit more water in my wet palette, otherwise it's not a wet palette. Mel, so when we're playing Stream Raiders and we get to the end of the battle and the chests pop up, people can use the points to redeem them to, if there's like a reward there you want, you can redeem one of the Stream Raider chests, and then I'll, you know, reward whichever one. It's kind of first come, first serve. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I should have read the chat. Okay. Yeah, Crisis Cloud said he was in another stream where they had the Stream Raiders going, and they recommended that there. Reward bribery, yeah. Yeah, the only rules is, you know, common courtesy and etiquette. Just, you know, don't claim them every single time. I'll let people get a chance. And sometimes I'm just going to reward them randomly to, like, reward them to other people who are playing that aren't necessarily able to watch or anything. So I'm just going to go to Shadow Flesh right over her face real quick. Right down on her chest there. Shouldn't have a lot of flesh going on here, just kind of like where the hand is. Nice, Bone Shooter. Yeah, if you guys don't follow Bone Shooter, please give Bone Shooter a follow. Sleepy. So we got the flush mapped out. We got our blue dress mapped out. What I'm going to do is, I think on her staff, trying to decide what I want to do with her staff. Okay, I'm going to do the staff like wood. So that's transparent black. That's not what I want. I want transparent brown. So we're going to do some transparent brown. If you don't have transparent brown or transparent blue or anything like that, you can just use a darker blue and thin it down. You can use a darker brown and thin it down and make it transparent. You know, that's plenty fine. Sometimes learning the wet blend and figure out proper lighting. Yeah, sure, Media. I mean, you're always more than welcome to ask questions here, explain stuff. Typically, I would definitely stop what I'm doing to address those. We are doing a paint along today that I am recording, so I'm trying to stay a little more focused here. But once I'm done with this, because this isn't going to go all day, but once we're done with this, I'll definitely gladly answer those questions for you and kind of try to help you get some direction here. Yeah, but wet blending is we're going to do some wet blending actually on here. So I mean, I will be able to address that with it, and we are talking about lighting today. So I mean, our main light source is going to be you know, the flame from, still trying to decide how I want to do this. If I want to do the flame from her hand to the weapon or staff, or from the staff to her hand. I'm trying to decide which direction I want that to be. But in the meantime, let's get the brown thinned down a little bit here. Yeah, and the staff, okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking like it's originating. Mediac, yeah, 100%. Please feel free to jump into Discord there. Exclamation point Discord will get you to Discord link. Yeah, and that goes for anybody's. I mean, there's a ton of great streamers and painters in there that you're more than welcome to, you know, ask questions and Mediac, thank you very much for the follow. Thank you very, very much. So it looks like the notifications are going to work today, which is nice. Thank you, Deb, for doing that. Okay, so I'm just going to do this like staff is the just wood. Because why not? It's magic. It can be wood. So we're going to have it going from the hand to the staff, because I agree with that. I like that idea. Like it's kind of like attacking. I don't want to say attacking, but leaping to the gemstone there. Red Otter, thank you very much for the subscription. I really appreciate that. Sharpie Thief, what is going on? Can we get a shout out for Sharpie Thief? And you can see here that this is going to be a bright light source. We're going to have, you know, the staff is going to be brighter up here, and as it goes down, it gets much, much darker. So we're going to have very dynamic lighting on this piece. We're going to have, I'm going to do her jewelry as gold, just kind of keep it nice and clean and consistent, and that gold's going to go nicely with the blues here. Pat, what's going on? How you doing? Well, I appreciate you using it here. It definitely helps out tremendously. Okay, so if we're going to have it originate from her hand. This is going to be the brightest source here of lighting. So our fire is going to be brightest here, and as it gets up here, it's going to get a bit darker. And then because it's not like there's just a termination point. We're not going to go quite as dark on the end of the fire as we normally would. Like normally I would like to do something like this just for style, but we're not going to have that because it just doesn't terminate. It kind of like hits this, and it's going to be kind of like I don't know what's that, going off of the weapon in a way, or it's getting sucked back into the weapon, like she's powering up the gemstone, I would say. Maybe charging the gemstone. Oh, thank you very much for the cheer. Thank you very much. Sharpie Thief, I'm doing good. How about yourself? How you doing? And congratulations on the engagement. Congratulations very, very much on that. That is amazing. So we're going to start with a little ivory. We're going to use a little bit of golden yellow. We are going to use a little bit of orange. Again, you do not have to use these paints. Like, these kind of colors are fine. Normally I like to teach this in the sense that you can use pretty much any kind of colors you want, which you can. You don't have to use the dark blue that I'm using. You can use any color dress you want, but think about it in the contrast sense of what color are you going to do your fire then, you know? Because if you choose to do like a blue or purple fire, you still have to go from like really light to darker. So like you still have to have the same kind of concepts apply. So think about this as in light to dark, not necessarily as in just yellow to like dark red, you know, because this is where we're going to kind of end up here with the burnt red with probably just a little bit of the coal black mixed in. Inks, I will get to the roast here in a minute. I'm going to keep the paint along going here. Done dark purple blue cloak. Nice. You can go green. Yeah, green would be a good complement. If you did a purple blue cloak, I wouldn't go a purple flame. I would do like a green flame. I think that would be a much better choice because then you're going to have that green purple blue contrast, so it's going to stand out a little bit better. But if you did a purple flame, I mean, you can do a purple flame, but it's not going to have as dynamic of effect with the object source lighting. It would more so just make your purple cloak look even brighter purple. I'm going to get your link open here for the roast. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start with light ivory. Sharpie Thief, is it safe to say everyone in chat is invited to the wedding? I think it's time for a fun hat. Be there with bells on. So what I'm doing is basically putting a drop of all these paints on my palette here. Yeah. Okay, let's try a different dark red because that bottle is going to make me want to lose my mind. Streaming on Twitch. Oh, that'd be cool. Okay, so the basic premise of what's going to happen here. Sorry, let me get these out of the way so it doesn't want to focus on those and it stays focused on miniature. So basically the basic premise of what's going to happen here, it's going to go from the lightest point here, wet blended to the darkest point essentially up here. But what I'm going to do is around the gemstone, where she's kind of like charging the gemstone, so to speak. It's going to be super light around the gemstone, and then as it fades out, this is where kind of like it's got like this explosion kind of effect going on here. The center of it's going to be super bright, and then as it gets towards the end is where I'm going to have more of my darker kind of termination happening with the flames here. pirate theme. That's awesome. Yeah, so I can't really. If anyone needs me to stop or hold up, like if I'm moving too fast, let me know. But if like you have to step away for a second or something like that, I can't really just stop for that because there's a lot of viewers right now. So I do want to kind of keep this going. Again, the VOD will be up, and eventually this will be up on YouTube, so anyone can catch up later on it. So I'm adding down here the ivory to get my lightest spot started on it. I'm going to move directly into the yellow here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of wet blending that yellow into that ivory. Grab some of this orange here, lay down this orange. And all I'm doing is just kind of working this yellow orange into each other. What we're going to do is going to hit this whole thing with orange here. And because of the way this kind of like terminates up here, I'm going to do this a little bit different than I normally would. And we're going to go back and we're going to rework some of these blends here. I'd imagine there's people that have streamed their wedding before. In-home wedding too, very nice. Mandaconda, what's going on? How you doing? Okay, I need a little bit more yellow on my wet palette. The main trick to the wet blending is really just keeping the paints wet as you go. And wet blending is I love wet blending, but it can be very, very tricky. Just mainly because of always fighting the kind of time constraint of the paint drying. One thing I've been using. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, Amanda. Liquitex Slow Dry Blending Medium. This stuff has been absolutely fantastic. I was using this heavily just to kind of learn how to use it, especially for the non-metal metallic gold I was doing on her shield here. And it really, really, really helped out the blends. I'm not using it right now on this because I'm not really that worried about the blends for this here, because they're pretty straightforward blends here. And all I'm really doing is just kind of working and going back and forth, adding a little bit of the color that I need towards the end of. So like if I need to add more ivory, I don't want to add the ivory right here and mix it in. I want to add the ivory here and kind of work it in from the end You know, same thing where if I want to add more orange, I don't want to add orange here and try to work it in. I want to add orange here and then, you know, kind of bring it in and pull it and move it along, and it'll help that transition. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of yellow down in here. Because this piece is going to have a couple different transitions happening very quickly here. We're going to have from the light to the darker here, and then from here, that center piece is going to be very, very bright. So I'm going to basically hit this gemstone with ivory, just kind of get the initial ivory right off the bat there with it. Keeping the paint wet on the minute, yeah. Yep. Now this is, I mean, it's already drying, so once you get past a certain point, and you're gonna go, oh, I gotta go back. If you start to mess with it, once it dries to a certain point, it'll start pulling and chunking and doing weird stuff. So you just gotta kind of learn, because everybody's paints are a little bit different. Every brand, every color, even within, can do different things. So you just kind of learn from practice as to what colors do what and which ones blend the best. What I'm doing is just kind of building up this orange and a little bit around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of this burnt red that I'm using here and start to mix it with a little bit of orange. And towards the edges here, I'm going to start mixing it, because this is kind of where my termination point is going to happen here. All right, Karen, take her easy. Flip this around here. We're going to start with a little bit of the ivory. Just work that in the middle a little bit. So I'm going to work a little bit of the yellow here. Get a little bit of the orange. Work that orange a little bit. A little bit of my burnt red orange mix. Kind of mix it around here. So one of the things that's going to drive, that's going to really drive that feel of like the hotness and the burnt, you know, the fire is going to be that transition between light and dark. We're going to go back in. I'm going to work that with a little bit more orange, because I don't want that much red going on there. Dark washu, okay. Trying to remember that for the next one here. Quake, what's going on? How you doing? Because keeping your paint wet is really, I mean, that is literally what wet blending is. It's just mixing the paint while it's still wet. So think about like when you blend paint together on a wet palette or whatever surface you're using as a palette, you know, and you're blending that together, but now you're going to be doing it on the miniature itself. One thing to think about too is if I have too much paint on here, I will need to back off and let it wait and wait till it draws and go back and start again, because, you know, I have oranges and stuff on there, and what's going to happen is those darker colors are going to keep overriding the lighter colors and keep tinting them down, because your lightest color that you have for your brightest color is always going to get, you know, it'll be more obvious when you put some of that darker color into it than you will if you go to the brighter color. So I'm going to work a little bit of yellow on here just to yellow this up a little bit more. And one nice thing about yellow is it is very transparent. So you can blend it rather easily without having to having everything super wet, because it will just kind of pick up on that. Brushforhire. Adder, what's going on? How you doing? Can we get a shout out for Adder, please? Rathmore morning. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rathmore. No, I don't want to sign into iTunes. What did I hit? Get out of here, iTunes. Nobody likes you. Thank you very much. So the brighter the center is too, the better that, the better the, what was it, the lighting effect will be for object source lighting. Again, this, so what I did here with like the ivory to, you know, the white, I mean, you can do with just about any color. So let's go green, ivory, you can use, I'm just kind of throwing some different colors down. I don't know if this is the exact colorations I would use. You know, use something like this, throw a nice dark one in there, and and then eventually have it end on black. You can do the same kind of thing with green here to get the kind of effect that you want, where it's really just that light to dark, no matter what kind of fire you're using, whether it be purple, green, blue fire, it's all the same concept of that light to dark. That's how I got this effect going here. Just creating that illusion that it's really bright, that it's casting light and reflections. And then you can see it reacts differently in the daylight side of it. Web Derp, thank you. And the way I'm painting this is like really like she's in a dark, we'll say a dark cave, and she's casting magic, whether to light the cave, whether to fight a monster or whatever. But this is going to be the light source for this piece to keep this thing really simple, as to how that lightness is going to go. And then what I'll do is I'll glaze on the other colors and stuff like that to really drive that. The theme song is my theme song for the podcast, podcast. Red Otter, thank you. So I'm taking some brown here just to kind of hit her hair, just to have some coloration to her hair here of some sort. Okay. Okay, alright, we're back to recording here. Get my stuff set back up here. Okay, very cool. Alright, so there we are. This is kind of where we're at with her right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some highlights on the skin. And what I'm going to use to do highlights on the skin is Tan Flesh from ProChrome. Love my intro being here. I'm glad you guys like that. Oh, I know, Wafflecraft. Yeah, Adder is awesome. Thank you again so very much. Thank you very, very, very much. Okay, so I'm going to do is I'm going to focus these highlights on where the light direction is coming from, because they are going to get some reflective, you know, like obviously the object source lighting reflections going on in their skin where it's going to tint them orange and stuff, but I just want to set up the base highlight to think about where it's going to be, because the closer it is to the light source, the brighter it's going to be. So the further away from the light source, the darker it's going to be, of course. You know, so the flame side of her hand here is going to cast a very, very strong light, and in turn the other side of her hand and arm is going to be very, very dark. And so there will be a little residual across the top here where it kind of arcs up and casts a little bit light down there. Mario, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so very much for the subscription. Dark Washu, thank you so much for the lurk. Your chat was crazy. That's awesome. I'm so glad it's going awesome for you, man. From work to chat, but no worries, Cryo Cheese. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. So that light, the flame light's going to get reflected back on her at some point here. I'm just kind of really setting up where I want all my highlights and shadows and stuff to be. So we're going to go across the top of her face here. I'm going to hit her eyelids because her eyes are closed. I can look straight down. I know it's a little hard to see here, but I can look straight down from the top here and kind of see where I want that light and shadow to kind of fall here. I'm going to hit her chest a little bit here. And this is not necessarily the fastest or most efficient way to do this, but I'm just kind of setting it up just to kind of think about light source. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I kind of want this fire to the exchange. So the way the flames work in any kind of like glow source works and stuff like that is the further from the center of the source of the flame, the darker the outer edges are going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go down the flame here, and where like the flame edges, spirals, raised areas are, where we wet blended to get the nice smooth transition. So now what I'm doing is going over those edges to make the insides of the flame feel hotter as we go. So I'm taking my orange here and just kind of going down to where the yellows were, and just using the side of the brush to let the edges catch it. What it's going to do is start driving that feel of that flame and give it shape and definition. I'm going to do the same thing with that yellow I was using. Down towards where the ivory was here. And what I can even do is take this ivory, I'm going to work it into some of the cracks here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get I have a brighter ivory here, so this is a bright ivory. And I'm just going to go in gently, just like where the brightest spot is, like at her hand, closest to her hand there. I'm going to do this is just go in and the closest to their hand that it is, just kind of drag along the inside cracks of the flame, so to speak. So think about this as like almost reverse shading. So I want to highlight the inside spots. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why, like, I'm doing it the way that I am. Is, you know, I leave the VOD up, of course, and then I'm recording it for YouTube later. And we're just going to kind of work this a little bit here. Starting with my bright ivory. I'm going to hop in here with some yellow. We're going to go back in with the orange towards the edges here. Mix in a little bit orange with a little bit of burnt red here. Just want the very outer edges to get caught with that. And you see here we got two very hot spots here from where it's jumping from her hand, and then it's jumping straight to that gem there. Create a very, very bright, teach me brush daddy. And the back side here, I kind of want a little bit of that residual brightness coming in from the back side. So again, we're going in with the ivory here. And same kind of thing, we're just going to kind of work it just a little bit at a time. If it takes a few attempts to get this, that is not an issue. Like don't, you know, I mean, I'm doing it again, you know, so it's kind of like one of those things of I may go back and rework it again. And your blends do not have to be super perfect on any level. It'll still read properly even if they're not super, super smooth. So again, this is probably going to be the miniature that I gift to one subscriber this month. Every month I gift a painted miniature out to a subscriber just as a thank you for helping to support me. And I'm going to just have that like little bit of residual where you can kind of see it's coming from, you know, real strong from this side, a little bit from this side, where it's not quite as bright, but it's getting there. Megan, what's going on? Waiting for a new position over video call. Fair enough. Yes, Mel is back. Mel has moved in. She has internet, so hell yeah. Again, I'm just taking a little bit of darker orange here just to kind of go along the ridges there, just to drive that feel and effect of very hot on the inside a little bit more. So I'm just going to hit the edges a little bit gently here. That's kind of where we're at with this. Smart like that. It's alright. This is my full-time job. Sometimes I have to like give me 1 second, I gotta check an email here. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do next, I'm not going to fiddle with that anymore. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to start the process of figuring out where I want all my light reflections to be. So I'm going to start with my orange that I was using for this, because this is kind of like my midpoint tone for a lot of this. So I'm going to start hitting, this is definitely going to have reflected light. I'm going to have a little bit in there along the top of this thing. Definitely along the top of her hand. We're going to go down her arm. So whatever color flame you did, whatever you worked with or chose to do, you know, that's what I recommend starting with here. So I'm going to go down her dress here. And this is where it's going to really start to shape up here. So across the top of her head. We're going to go across the top of her face here. I'm just lightly doing this. And I want to make sure I keep that cutoff point for, like, when I look at this, I'm looking at her face. I'm trying to get this rotating the camera there. So I look at her face and I go, okay, how much is facing up? Where's that cutoff happen? You know, because I want to make sure I don't get the underside, but just the parts of the face there. They're kind of facing upwards. And the hair is going to catch. A little bit of this hair will. And go right across the top of her chest here. So one thing to think about too is the darker I have down here, the stronger this effect is going to be towards the top there. So definitely along here. Definitely across the side of the staff here. The side of the staff is going to get it here. And think about like ridges and stuff like that too. So like where this like ring around the staff is, right underneath that is going to be a shadow that isn't going to be reflecting it that way. So let's go to the back side here. And a good way to do this is you can look straight down on top of her and kind of see where that's going to fall. So definitely across the top of the hood there. Now there is an indented shadow there. And that's not going to catch that on the underside of that. But we will have that caught. the side of her head here. So there is the what is it? Law of square inverse that says, you know, like as it gets further away, the effect is halved of how bright it is, or something like that. I may have missed it, but are you diluting the base paints any additional amount to help this zenithal? As far as now the blue, yes, the blue I did. But as far as like the orange I'm doing now, like I'm thinning it down just to help it go on, but I'm not really thinning it to let the color necessarily, you know, show through for the zenithal. But more so just her original like dress coloring, just to kind of have that effect happening. And one thing that is kind of nice here is this is one that you can fudge a little bit more because there's so much lighting coming from like all kinds of different directions. But there are a few spots that definitely will not, because it's just such a harsh undercut that it's just going to create a shadow that like won't be lit. Get a little bit of the edge along here. Where her jewelry is, for sure, along the top of this arm sleeve. You know, typically what I tell people is like whatever your object is giving off the light, use it as like a aim sight and kind of look to see where that lighting is going to hit. You know, this one's a little bit tougher simply because when you look down, it does cover so much, but it does kind of give you the idea that other than these like severe undercuts of her hood, you know, it's going to catch a lot of that. I have never eaten a peanut butter and pickle sandwich, and I am never going to. Not for free anyways. Law in the paint box, what is going on? WebDev, thank you very much for the shout out there. Anna, how you doing? For the glazing exclamation from last time, is this a case where I didn't use any medium because I was using a transparent blue. So when I was glazing here, I did not use anything other than just a little bit of water, just a couple drops of water to thin this out just a little bit to make it easy to go on. But this has transparency to it already, so after just a little bit of thinning, it goes on real nice and thin and lets all of your shadow and highlights just kind of like take precedence under it. You know, or you know, go right through it real nicely. Oh, no worries, Anna. Tier 3 for a peanut butter pickle sandwich challenge. Ugh. Yeah, and like I said, I didn't thin it to like really make it more transparent. I just thinned it so it flows a little better. And just, you know, it goes on nice and smooth. Sorry, just checking notifications there to see what's going on. Because I went down onto her chest here, I want to make sure I go down about the same on the back side here. So let's just along the side here. And kind of what I'm doing is kind of treating it like it's like think about it as a sphere around it, and just kind of like treating it like a circle. So like as we go down, just kind of hitting that circle for the extent of where the color's going to like hit here. Same thing kind of here, just kind of, you know, think about like her chest kind of being the bottom of that circle. Um, Crazy Fair. Typically, I mean, when I'm doing that, if I have a nice zenithal primer and I did white to straight black, like gray or black, gray, white. I've used really dark paint because anytime you do the glaze over like a zenithal, you typically want to use a dark paint, and typically those thin down pretty well without getting too weird. The other thing you can use for an additive is like a glazing medium, or you can just use matte medium. Matte medium, is basically paint without pigment in it, so it'll start to make the paint more transparent without breaking down the binders that hold the pigments, and then you can add water to get a little bit thinner. BT Headshots, what's going on? I had lost the sword during my manic episode on my. Yeah, I was doing some reworking with mods and stuff like that of what mods I wanted, where and stuff like that, and just like people here all the time and stuff like that. And was cleaning up some mods I wasn't seeing a whole lot and stuff. Okay, so we have the initial kind of like orange cast light here. And go a little bit more here. Just want to strengthen up some of that orange. So that's the other thing too, is the higher up it is, the stronger that basically the way illumination works is the closer the object is to the source of light, the stronger the reflected light back is going to be. So the further away it gets, the less strong that reflected light is going to get. Where like, I'm going to thin down this orange a lot here real quick. So let's thin this orange way down. So this orange is very, very thin now. So if I go a little bit along here, it just kind of barely tints the top of her leg. So if I wanted to just like basically like kind of tint the other blues and stuff like that, because we say this is the only source of lighting in here, is a way that you can do that. So we can even do that over here a little bit. And you don't have to do this step at all. I'm just kind of like showing some different stuff that you can do. Oh, thank you very much, Sassy, for the subscription. Sorry I didn't hear a notification. Ramus Woods going on. Pop in and say hi. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm working on our paint along today. We're going to have an object source lighting, which you do an amazing job of. Prepping some more Plague Marines, get ready for 3 weeks off for work for summer leave. Oh, very cool. Okay, so we're gonna go back in with the yellow. And where this gets closer to the source of lighting, we're gonna go back in. I'm gonna start hitting it a little bit with the light here. Same thing closer up here it is. The brighter I want this illumination to be. Oh, there's a notification, man. That's a delayed notification there. just going to kind of hit this up here a little bit. Degrees out. Probably shift from 80s, 90s. Oh yeah, that is a big difference. Mediac, I don't like. I mean, I see a lot of people use airbrushing for it, and I've seen it done very, very well. But a lot of time, what I see people do is they just hit it and they just go psh, and they hit it all. And what the problem is you don't get the proper shadows. I mean, you can go back in and work the shadows, you know. And I've seen a lot of people, they just softly airbrush it and then they don't do anything else afterwards, you know. So if you wanted to do your initial transition from light to dark with an airbrush and then go back in and rework the details and stuff to make sure it looks proper, absolutely. But like, you're really not going to get this effect with an airbrush right off the bat. Like, I like airbrushes. I use airbrushes a lot. I have no problem with that. You know, everyone here knows that. But it's one of the things, the airbrush can be very limiting as to what it can do. You know, so it only goes so far. So I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pick out some of the higher spots here. And I'm going to highlight her face a little bit brighter with the reflection from the object source lighting. Mainly because her skin is going to be paler, so her paler skin is going to reflect a little bit better. But I do not want to go as bright as the actual like thing giving off the light to begin with, so I'll just kind of thin it down a little bit. Her hair is going to be a reflective surface, so we'll just kind of do a little bit more there too. And one thing it's going to do is help drive, you know, focus points to her face itself. At the top of her skin here, these gold bracelets are going to be very reflective, so we're going to hit those also. Same thing with the gold there. We'll hit along the edge there. Yeah, the sub image is lagging hardcore, unfortunately. It's such a good image. Probably because let's get back to recording. There we go. Not painting anything, go back later and paint. Yeah, absolutely. Doing it well enough, I can keep you on a secondary monitor while working is very Bob Ross-esque. Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliments, of course. So my brightest reflection point will be right where her hand is. Because I can... Yeah, that's going to be the brightest reflection point there, because that's closest to the source of the actual energy and fire. Let's add a little bit more ivory in here, just to strengthen that up a little bit. So I don't really want that shadow where it's touching her skin. Let's lighten it up a little bit in the back side here too. Everything about the color and the color it would cast mix different color materials, which is a little weird. No, Red Otter, that absolutely is a valid thing, and it just depends on the piece that you're doing. And it's one of the things I've thought a lot about also, but that's why it's also very important to think about the situation that the miniature is in. Where if I have her in a dark cave where this is pretty much, or in the middle of the night outside, where this is pretty much the major source of lighting, you know, it will actually cast these kind of effects. You know, and there is some aspect to that that you know we do that you're absolutely correct. Yeah, I've seen that done and it works really, really well. But it kind of depends on what the absence of the other lighting is and how close that object actually is. But no, that wouldn't look weird at all. And that's kind of why like I actually chose a contrasting color, because it makes it a bit easier to pull this off with a contrasting color than it does to actually. Ramus, thank you very much for the lurk. I appreciate it. Than it would be to do it with like a complementary color that would be too close. Like if I was doing a red cloak, it would make this much, much more difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually mix some orange into this blue here. So I'm going to work on some shadows here for her. So I'm going to actually use this transparent blue. Where's it at? There, yeah, I'm going to turn this transparent blue here I was using. I'm going to actually mix a little bit of transparent orange right into that. And object source lighting and stuff like that is its own whole kind of like rabbit hole you can go down with stuff. Because that question there that was asked, Red Otter, about, you know, would it tint, you know, the fabric versus actually just have a reflected color? Yeah, absolutely. You know, it kind of just depends on what you're doing. I mix transparent orange and transparent blue together. What we're going to do is going to add some shadows in here. One of the reasons why I'm kind of just glazing over this whole thing too is it's going to darken the shadows with a nice orangish blue, giving a nice darker ugliness to it. And it's helping kill out some of these shadows or the highlights here, because I don't want them to have very blue highlights, for a simple fact of this is really her only real source of light is this dark, or I'm sorry, not dark, but the orange. And since dark blue is the main color going on here, I want that transparent orange to really help desaturate that. And this is one of the things that's always a learning process for me, you know, as I go, you know, I'm actually trying some new stuff here. You know, okay, what happens if I do this? Let's add a little bit of this effect in here. I'm going to even add a little bit of a shadow in here. You know, that's one of the reasons why I chose to make her so dark right from the get-go, is because I wanted that effect to really shine through and have, like, make more sense with the reflections. Chris, what is going on? Oh, awesome, Chris. Might change the color in a mini with objects would probably nail down. Yeah, Red Otter, and that's a great effect to do. I've done a little bit of that, and it is definitely a fun thing to think about because it's like if you have a blue light shining on a red object, you know, if it's not going to be a highly, you know, if it's not going to be like a super glowing thing, but just like, you know, like say I put a, you know, say this paper was, you know, red in, you know, well, yeah, we'll say red paper and we'll say green light, like I just put a filter right over the light in my room, it would change the way everything reflects, where it's not going to have necessarily an object source lighting type effect of like a glow like this, but it'll reflect the red in the paper because of the way that wavelength works. It'll come back as almost a black. Heat resistant brushes are no, Red Otter, that works. I like that joke. That's actually pretty damn good. Salamanders, but color scheme fully dialed in now. Very nice, Chris. If you have anything you want to share, as always, please feel free to. And the other thing you want to think about too is the other kind of like surfaces you have on here. So like I'm going to have some, you know, non-metal metallic golds, which are going to reflect light much easier, and they'll have like a, you know, strong glint the whole way around the trim of her dress there. And I'm going to use a little bit of this. That's not what I want to do. Dig something up. Okay, very cool. Right, let's get this transparent brown here. Yeah, let's take a look here real quick. Oh, very nice, Chris. That's looking awesome, man. Excellent work as always. Yeah, that's a good color. I like that color a lot. Okay, so let's get, her belt is going to be brown. So I'm just going to hit that with some transparent brown there. Just kind of keep the transparency going on all these different surfaces. Okay, so let's get, I'm not going to really teach non-metal metallic gold. I'm going to move pretty quick through this because I already have another video with non-metal metallics if you want to go back and check that out on my YouTube. Where's... And I'm going to base coat my... Oh, no, I'm going to use dark umber to base coat anything I'm going to have non-metal metallic gold. Fastly, all right. We'll get you roasted here at the next break here. Right off the bat, those do look freaking fantastic, though. What's this song? Let me get a smaller brush here. Some of this non-metal metallic is going to be very, very... There we go. Me too. Thank you, Deb. So I'm going to have this little swirl effect around the staff here be gold. I'm going to have this detail in the bottom of her dress here. Have this be gold, like little gold frilly filigree or whatever here. There isn't a whole lot of gold stuff here, but just a little bit of it. Bone Shooter, thank you very much. Finished up this vacation mini I was doing, threw it up on Reddit. Okay, very cool. Let's see here. Yeah, I always want to see what you guys are working on. What the hell just happened there? Oh, give me a second here, sorry. I just opened like 6 copies of it because I'm dumb. Alright, there we go. Now it's looking better. Very nice. No, it wasn't a Twitch on glitch. That was just me being dumb. Clicking too many things. Yeah, very, very cool. That looks great. Very, very nice work. Love the colors. Okay, so one thing I'm going to do too is where I have non-metallic gold, that is a highly reflective surface, so it will reflect back much stronger. So I'm actually going to go in with my brighter ivory here to hit the non-metallic rings and stuff. I got goofed up a little bit there, but I'll fix that. I am just kind of trying something here to see what happens. You know, I may not like this, I may end up reworking it. That's fine, we're going to try stuff. I'm going to get my ochre, or golden brown ochre here. Giving you a benefit of doubt. I appreciate it though. Some magenta yellow. Took 5 paints on vacation. Very nice. Grumpy old G, what's going on? I gotta take these out. These are putting pressure points on my head. I think it's cutting off circulation or something. I'm going to take my ochre color here with my bright ivory. I'm going to mix it a little bit here so I get more of a really bright ochre color, because That ivory is a little too strong. Cosmic Bright Scith Raiders, very nice. Tim Toolman, thank you very much. Yeah, no, I love doing this. I love the fact that this is my job that I'm able to do. I'm very, very fortunate for it. So we're doing the paint along today. So this is using yellow ochre here, mixing it with my dark umber here to get my next highlight color for the non-metal metallic golds here. Again, I'm not going to really hammer on any non-metal metallic golds or anything. Not a big source thing, it's really the main focus here. But what I'm doing is going across the top of kind of the trim on the dress here. So I do want that to be brighter because that being a non-metal metallic, or a metallic surface I should say, it's going to reflect the light back much easier, and it's going to catch whatever light is there and throw it back. So we're going to go my lightest ochre color here with a little bit of ivory mixed in. At any point that there is again, I'm not worried about totally refining anything today. This is more so just kind of like how do we get there, and then you guys can work on refining stuff later. And I'll work on refining her later because she'll be the gift miniature I gift to one subscriber this month. This was, for those who didn't see it, this was last month's paint along miniature that we did for July that was gifted to one subscriber. Okay, Sauce, what is going on? Jeez, Mel, get back in the chat for like the first time, and the first thing you do is just lead everyone to their deaths in a heist. I'm doing this kind of where the trim is like spiraled around the staff here. I'm doing that as non-metal metallic gold. I'm just gently letting the side of the brush catch the edge here, the raised edge, so that way it gets a highlight. Lighten it up here a little bit. Why I'm doing the gold is because, again, a metallic surface is going to catch that light much, much easier. darken down here where I overpainted a little bit. So we're just going to go back in and darken down around that a little bit here. Again, this is not a step of the process. This is just me correcting something I goofed. So don't feel like you have to do this on any level. Alright, BT Headshots, thank you very much. Build that orange shadow back up here. I'm going to get my finer brush again. I'm going to go back in with that ochre. So I can re-highlight what I just painted over because I goofed up. Just a little bit of a reflection point there. A little bit there. A little bit there. A little bit there. And a little bit there. There we go. That feels a lot more controlled now instead of blobbed everywhere like I did. Text-to-speech. I don't even know if text-to-speech is going to even work today for stream. Okay. I will put text-to-speech on here in a few minutes because I am recording right now and it will make a hot mess of everything. Inks, anyone, the chest rewards, I do ask that we just wait until the chest rewards pop up, and if you got one last time, hold off to see if someone wants to redeem it for this time. Oh, you a hat. Well, my thing is I don't necessarily mind the text-to-speech, but it's a little hard to do the teaching and have that going. I can barely hear myself think when I put that on. Plus, I honestly don't know what would happen with the recording because this computer is not real great with multitasking. Okay, so this is where we're at with her. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break here. Pause the recording. Pause. All right, there we go. Now we're recording again. All right, so worked on just kind of glazing some highlights, you know, softer highlights that are kind of to pick up on her dress there, because I just went back in with the orange. I glazed in a little bit of the highlights on the tops there of where I wanted fabric to catch. That way the dress has some definition to it, isn't like in complete shadow. Whoop, too far. There we go. You want to be in complete shadow. And one of the things that makes fire painting complicated is the fact that fire is almost translucent in a way and like see-through. Like you can essentially see through flames for the most part. So we're painting on a solid object trying to emulate that, especially the fact that flames are not, you know, typically that thick like that. Or about having a seizure, yeah, pretty much. You know, and it's one of those things, again, it's really creating that illusion of that hot glow. What I'm do is I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow here that I've been using. Thin it down a little bit, and I'm just going to hit the bottom side of this. I know it's barely hard. You can barely see it in camera there, but. So what we're going to do is get my orange. And I'm just going to kind of go along some of the edge of these flames here. I'm going to take my burnt red color here, add a little bit of the orange to it. I don't want it to be super, super strong dark, but I'm just going to go along kind of the very outer tips of this. A little bit more here. Just kind of where some of the outer edges are. I just kind of want to darken it up there a little bit to drive that hot to cooling area of it. And it goes back to one of those things that basically all we're doing here is really just kind of creating that illusion and telling our brains what to read this as. You know, I would never say this is exactly how this should look and this is exactly correct on any level. You know, and everyone's going to do it a little bit different simply because, you know, I mean, we are creating art. So everyone's going to have kind of like their own little way of handling this. I'm using a little bit of this transparent blue-orange mix that I did in the shadows here. To just hit the very tips of that. I know it gets a dark background. That's about all the more I'm going to fiddle with that. Kind of the top of the belt here a little bit. Crump, what's going on? Thank you very much, Crump. Looking at her, I don't think I'm really getting them a whole lot more. Actually, I need to fix that there. That bright blue shouldn't be there like that. So we're just going to take a little bit of this transparent orange and just go right over that. Darken that down a little bit. Sibling. Bianca, what is going on? So Bianca, we gonna do another paint off this Friday. Thank you for doing a shout out for Bianca. Okay, so I have this hand here that's a little bit too bright on the backside there. So I'm actually just gonna use a little bit of this transparent blue mix I have here. Hell yeah. Yeah, that was fun and insane. Yeah, for those who missed it on Friday, we did an impromptu paint showdown with Bianca there. And this is the masterpiece I painted. I might clean it up a little bit, but it was definitely fun. These are just a sloth in a tub. trying to see if there's anything else to really do on her. I mean, it's one of the things of doing a piece like this is be kind of nice because you can get a nice dynamic look without a whole lot of work and not having to worry about a whole lot of things going on. Yeah, so one thing I can do is I can go in and get a little bit of this transparent blue, just a teeny bit here. I can even go on the underside of this, just kind of create that shadow. You know, and really, like, the trick to getting fire to read as fire, especially on something like this, is that being able to transition from the hot to the cold, and like fire towards the end of it gets darker. You know, that's one of the biggest things with like, you know, this is just a very simple, effective fire I did on here. You know, just kind of for tabletop, and didn't do anything like super crazy or go way over the top or anything like that here. But like you can see, one thing I can do here is go back in with the orange here. You know, so like where the yellow is, kind of go in. Whoop. And start to kind of darken down the ridges where that orange is. And since you got the orange there, go in a little bit of burnt red and orange mixed. You know, and just a little bit picking up those ridges and stuff like that kind of helps it read as fire even a little bit more. Webber, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so this is the result of what Bianca did and what I did. I mean, I nailed it. Like, mine's a sloth. I'm not sure what this is. This looks just like a, I'm gonna say a trash panda taking a bath. But I mean, mine looks so hyper realistic. It's not even funny. Like, mine almost looks like a photograph. Like, I had PETA contact me asking if I was trying to drown like a sloth and stuff. So it's like I had to like change my phone number because PETA wouldn't leave me alone. Left hand never gets sweaty. Yes, my left hand does. Slothy rose up. No, like, Bianca's is just amazing. I showed this to my buddy. My buddy goes, oh my gosh, dude, because like my buddy, we always compare our work and stuff like that in a very healthy way to push and challenge each other and stuff. And yeah, you're laughing at my joke. I'm sensitive. But like, I showed him this. He goes, "Oh my gosh, dude, she owned you on every level." It's like, I know, dude. Like I know. It's like, it's amazing. I was like, and in fact, there was like an hour and a half of painting in both these, you know. But it's like one of those things of Bianca knows her style, her colors, the way she works, and can draw animals and stuff. I can't. He goes, dude, hers looks like a sticker, and I just linked him to the red bubble. I was like, yes, it probably is going to be a sticker. Oh, it was so much fun. Like, I like the way mine turned out. It's just the way I paint. Like, I'm comfortable with my style. It was fun. It was a learning experience. Did some new stuff, but like, yeah, like I laughed my ass off the whole time. It was so funny. Bianca, I know we can paint a mini, but like, we gotta have an organized, like, more organized official, like, canvas paint off first, and then we can do, you know, a miniature paint off, and we can do different challenges like that. Then you know what we need to do, Bianca, is find something that we're neither of us are familiar with, and try and do like an art challenge that way with something neither of us are. Yeah, I think that was the fastest I've ever sold, and technically that is the very first like canvas flat painting I've ever sold. Like, I don't think I've ever sold another flat painting before. Yeah, Crump, like, your work was fantastic last time. Chainsaw sculpture. That makes for good streaming. Paper mache. Paper mache would be fun. Okay, I gotta clean up a little bit here, but like, I really don't think there's a whole lot more to fiddle with this. I mean, does anyone have any questions? Anything that I need to better do? I mean, there's gonna be a little bit of cleaning up I do on this later, but as far as the paint along, I'm calling paint along done. I think it's where it needs to be. You know, I noticed it was a quick one, but I mean, it doesn't need to be dragged out either. You know, it's just kind of to the point. It was a nice, simple, clean and miniature. The point was to not, you know, teach an entire miniature, but really just focus on the flames and the light that they'll cast, of just trying to get that look down. You know, I'm really happy with the way her face came out. Paints should have worked with what I had. Okay, so let's stop the recording here. No point in recording more.